Hello and welcome back to Prism & Company. My name is Colin, and on the docket today, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo of the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. Full disclaimer, I'm going to say archetypes at some point in this video. I love that deck so much and I'm so used to saying it. And this one also starts with an A and it just feels alchemy, archetypes. They're both three symbols. Kim Crunch. I call her Kim Crunch. Kim Crunch. Kimberly Ann Crunch. This is confusing. It is difficult to say the names of your decks. I'm not actually mad at her. I love them both dearly. I digress. If you didn't catch the first one, what I'm doing today is I'm taking one suit of this deck, the 22 mysteries in this case, and I'm going to be comparing them to the Tarot Major Arcana, because there's of course 22 of those cards as well. The way I did this, I looked at all the 22 mysteries. I wrote out all the keywords and what they meant to me, and I said, okay, this mystery, which tarot card do I think it pairs up best with? And I slotted it in, and I did that with all 22. And sometimes I got to weird spots where it was difficult to fit one in, like maybe one mystery fit with several different cards, or one didn't fit with any of them. So I had to make some tricky choices, but I like where the list ended up. Without further ado, let's take a look at it. But first, cue the intro! That intro gets my blood pumping every time. I do like it though. Today I am using the Masonic Tarot, an oldie but a goodie. It is one of my favorites. I will be using these majors to compare against our lovely alchemical cards. Let's start with the Fool. I don't use this deck enough, honestly, because it's expensive. It's old, it's out of print, and it's expensive, and already the paper is kind of starting to age and wear, and I just don't want to break it. It's this beautiful thing that I love, and I gotta just start embracing more if you don't use it, you'll lose it. It's aging, it's gonna break anyway, or crumble to dust or whatever. I might as well just enjoy it. Anyway, with the Fool, I have paired the Uncreated. I tried to say the Latin names last time over here, Increatum, which I'm probably still gonna do, but I forgot to do it half the time, so don't mind me. For the Uncreated, some of our keywords from Miss Crunch, we have the unconceived, the seed of the seed, the mechanic of creation, always happening, unfolding. Here we see our Fool just spinning in a Fibonacci sequence. It's growing, it's expanding exponentially. It is the Uncreated. It is literally zero. It is not yet there. Once we get to our Magician, which is 1, we are finally created. This one felt like a rock solid lock-in for me. Oh, the backs of these look really lovely together too, don't they? Obviously the blues, a lovely little yin and yang. Not even yin and yang. Yin and yin? Doesn't matter. But beautiful geometry with organic flowy fabric. Oh, And oh, come on now. Speaking of, look at this Magician. The Magician I have paired with the red and white rose, known as Flores Sapientum, of course. Our keywords for the red and white rose are vital force, arising, awakening, physical gateway to the spiritual. I think the arising, the awakening is perfect from our uncreatedness to our now createdness. It's the blossoming, it's the going. And so many magicians, the fingers are pointed up, fingers are pointed down. They're the conduit between heaven and earth. They're the living spirituality in all of us. So that felt like another just beautiful one. And oh, I don't want it to go away. It's so nice. One more time. Oh yeah. For the High Priestess, I got a blister kayaking, by the way. So sorry I had this weird gross blister on me. I wish I didn't. For our High Priestess, we have the Blue Temple. Now this is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards in this deck. I think it's so cool and mysterious. If you don't know much about alchemy, you're in great company, because as it turns out, literally nobody does. I'm trying so hard to find resources and books on alchemy, and there's knowledge out there, and people have written a lot of words on alchemy, but in my experience, which admittedly is shallow at this point, nobody knows what they're talking about. There is no good, clear source of this is what this thing means, and this is what this thing means. Everybody wants to be really flowery and secretive and talk around it. Anyway, the reason I'm going off on this tangent is that's very much the Blue Temple. Let's take a look at some keywords, shall we? The Blue Temple, celestial realm, the imagination, expansiveness, inner eye opens, and mysteries. If any of you were lucky enough to join the Kim Cran's live stream, for anybody who pre-ordered the deck, she talked at length about the Blue Temple, and I thought she did a beautiful job going into how blue is this mysterious color that just gets more mysterious the more you meditate on it, and how you can kind of lock yourself in this azure vault and just sit with mysteries and let them spiral. And that feels perfectly High Priestess to me. I mean, she's literally behind a blue curtain here in a blue room. Like, this works out perfectly. And we just see her silhouette. She's wearing a blue crown. I mean, she is the azure vault here, like incarnate. And I love it. I think it's great. For the Empress, I picked what is maybe one of my visual favorite cards of the deck, Sun's Splendor. This is a big surprise to me because normally I don't like gaudy things too much, and I don't love a bunch of gems around. And this feels like, I don't know, a poster for Hawaii or something with like the sunset and the flowers. And all that being said, all these things that normally don't jive for me, I think it's gorgeous the way that it all comes together, the way that these gems dominate the composition and feel like a rainbow, but also feel like unique individual items. The way that these crystals really blast the Sun's Splendor out of this card, it is a home run for me. And the fact that she used a little gold circle, very alchemical for the sun, oh, chef's kiss. Why did we pick it for the Empress? Great question. For Sun's Splendor, our keywords are generosity, health, abundance, the long-term effects, one ray at a time of these ideals. And that's a very kind of crunchy, earthy Empress. You know, it's generosity, health, abundance. Those things feel very Empress to me. I often read Empress slightly different than that, but that feels clean and classic and good. And I love my mom so much. She gives me so many warm fuzzies. And like this card gives me the same almost nostalgic warm fuzzies wrapped up in like bright, shiny memories. So I think it's, at least for me, just a lovely little combo. All right, coming in with the Emperor in his beautiful, almost Orphic egg, his strong geometry lit ablaze. Oh, gorgeous. And we have the Raven's head dominated by that Marsy red. Oh, it's beautiful. They're even facing the same direction. They're both holding an orb. I think it's perfect. But beyond just the visuals, the Raven's head is about initiation, the ordeal, the work begins, cannot be stopped. You have been chosen. And this is one where I wouldn't necessarily put the Raven's head with the Emperor, but in the context of this exercise, I think it's a really good fit. The Emperor is, strong and leading the troops out into the charge. He is going like, also if we think of like the Fool's journey here, the Fool is like, kind of becomes awakened to the magician and sees secrets and mysteries in the High Priestess and gets, encouragement and abundance from the Empress. He's ready to go. We're all ready to go. And the Emperor is like, let's go. And the Raven's head is like the beginning point in alchemy, from what I understand, from the limitless, ineffable texts. It seems like the Raven's head is a pretty good place to start. Which leads us, of course, to the Hierophant and the new pearl. Now, the new pearl, some of our keywords here are grit, irritation, waiting, pearl. I don't know if pearl is necessarily a keyword for the new pearl. The work is underway but not yet formed. The idea of a single piece of sand in an oyster slowly over time builds up this beautiful pearl. And I think the Hierophant is very much that, or it could be that. The Hierophant is that intellectual study of the mysteries. It is slowly acquiring this knowledge through years of dedicated service and meditation and prayer and, whatever lens you want to throw on it. And eventually, the Hierophant becomes this new pearl. In the background here, we see this like geometric circle. That is the Hierophant pearl incarnate. It has become the pearl. And I think that's pretty beautiful. I also like here that we have this downward triangle. So we have the pearl and these bars as kind of like the mysteries or the heavens. And then it's pointing downwards as if it's like becoming carnate. It's diving into the sand down here and getting gritty and getting earthy. For the lovers, we've got the mystical sister. Oh, this lovers though, look at it. Like, I've talked at length about this lovers in a different video, I forget which one, but how it is like asymmetrical balance at its finest. This is a masterclass, people. It's so beautiful. In Mystical Sister, we have a lot of those same kind of things. We have, very geometric things jutting in from the sides. We have our beautiful moth here in the center, kind of representing the unfolding of this star in the middle. But more than that, for Mystical Sister, our keywords are sacred ally, anima, outreach, dear friend, support, respect, and unconditional love. I usually don't read the lovers as like two people, but why the heck not? I know a lot of people do. And the lovers almost always depicts two people kind of uniting, or two things becoming one, or a choice between two things. Like, it's very much this dynamic of things. And why can't that be an ally? I don't see any reason why not. In fact, I see so much reason that I chose it in my video, and we're here. Thank you. Thank you. I'll accept my award now. For the Chariot, we have sparks of light. And I love that the Chariot in this image is kind of chasing after like the same shade of yellow. It's a spark of light that is just kind of condensed a little bit, and it's now rotating and flying all over the place. For sparks of light, we have hope, sensation, exhilaration, clues, guides, and enthusiasm. I like that charging forward vibe of the Chariot, that, just go with it, the enthusiastic, young buck on his weird little teeny rock with wheels on it, and these weird dragons, and that gal, they're moving along. There's enthusiasm there. If this horse isn't enthusiastic, I don't know what it is. I think it's great. And for me, the Chariot is often very deliberate and grindy and kind of sacred in some ways. So it's fun to see a new angle of it and get a little bit more of a bright light, shiny sparkle. Up next, we have Justice. And this choice is not at all how I read the Justice card, but it is kind of what I wish Justice would be. And this one made me happy because I'm like, oh man, if only. I chose the Peacock's Tail. And oh, what a beautiful card this is. I just want to take a peek here at this gorgeous little pen mandala, this pointillism sphere that's it almost looks like a pulse that's kind of evaporating away from this beautiful center amidst this rainbow. Oh, it's really, really lovely. I think it's quite a strong card. The Peacock's Tail is full vision, the spectrum, inclusivity, single to multi-perspective, discarding black and white. So much about Justice is black and white sometimes, whether that is in practice or kind of the symbolically or metaphorically. So the idea that Justice could, be multi-perspective and inclusive and see things from all these different sides, to me, that feels like Justice. And that's what we're going to go with. A little Acada Pavonis, if you will. And I will. In walks the Hermit. Oh, the Hermit with his cool staff and his crazy snake and his magical square. Loving him. For this one, I picked the Despicable Face. I think visually, they go right together. Lots of browns in the background, little pockets of light yellow in there. We have portions of green. We have little bits of red and just a little teeny bit of blue. This is true for both videos. I did not pick these at all visually. This is just me being I put them together. I'm like, oh, damn, they actually go together pretty well. So that's a fun little discovery for both of us. But the reason I did pick this, the Despicable Face, means what is hidden, unaccepted, shame, kept in hiding, resentment, abomination, and untrue. The idea behind this card is really cool, that there's something within all of us that we consider a despicable face. It is something we don't like, that we are, afraid of, ashamed of, that we want to hide. And I don't read the Hermit like that at all. But that idea of keeping it in interiors, being by yourself, being alone in this thought, not letting anybody else in, that does feel very Hermit to me. And maybe even old Marseille Hermit, where it's this old man, usually Old Man Time or the Keeper of Time, or just on the fringe of society somewhere. I could certainly see it kind of fitting in. I think it's again an interesting little wrinkle in what the Hermit might be. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune, and with this one I chose Synchronicity. I think this one is decently apparent. This one I thought fit really well. It fits really well. Here we have source, destiny, the miraculous message, what you notice matters. Kind of what goes around comes around in some ways, or big cosmic loops and spirals. That feels very Wheel of Fortune to me. The idea that, the world is mechanical in some way and that things just connect, that there are these weird cosmic loops that get made, and it's hard to know why, and it's not always on purpose, but just life and the way things work bend reality until two things touch and it creates a synchronicity. Up next we have Earth's Heart. Bam! I always reveal the tarot card first, but not anymore. With force or fortitude or strength. Earth's Heart, we have depth, pulse, buried treasure, layers. Earth is the true heart. I really like this idea of Earth's Heart, that, we've never seen the interior of the Earth before. It's a mystery. Like, we're just guessing at what's down there. But even the metaphoric idea that, within ourselves, we can guess what's in there, but we don't know the depths of our unconscious or the depths of our soul, or, what's down in there. We can only kind of feel the pulses and the echoes coming up from the chambers and determine what that means to us. And I think that there's something, like, in a very quiet read of strength, there is an inner pulse that's coming out. There's an inner depth. There's a buried treasure. There's, something strong and subtle that we can't see, but just like erupts when the time is right. Up next, two cards that look literally nothing alike. The Hanged Man and Chaos. I don't know. We could find some similarities, like there's like jaggies and jaggy. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. For, what's it called? Chaos. Where is it? I'm looking at my spreadsheet, and it's right there. There. Great. Oh, perfect. Disoriented. Spinning. Groundlessness. Free fall. Web of freedom. On the brink of something. That was a perfect one to lose my place on the spreadsheet. That was lovely. The idea that the Hanged Man is just like perpetually in this state of ebb or flow. I never know which one it is. But this state of like not groundedness. They're literally hanging off the ground, and they're just hanging there. This is expert commentary, people. Oh my God. Like, give me another award. I clearly deserve it. Massa Confusa. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. This originally was going to be Tower or Devil or something, but I really like the idea that, the Hangman can just be about a chaotic unknown sometimes. People usually treat it very peacefully, but why not throw a little chaos into the mix? Up next we have Death, and just look at this death. Oh, green and black. This like white angel on this skeletal horse. It almost looks like her skin is decomposing in front of our eyes. These people are lost within a labyrinth that they never escape from, and it's got a black sun halo. Ugh. I'm just drowning in how good it is. Here we have Against Nature as our pairing, and another very visually striking comparison. If I turn it this way, this almost looks like our skeletal horse, and our sun yellows behind, and the greens and the dark black of the sun in the center, even down to the red on the top with our lamb. Maybe it does work better this way. Oh yeah, it totally does, because the horse is kind of going in an upward trajectory. Here we go. Against Nature, our keywords are willfulness, the force to control, impatience, agitation, fighting the flow, uncontrollability. Talk about a card for death. Fighting the flow, you can't. This is like them trying to fight against the flow right here, and this death is just like sweeping in and cutting them off with the feet. The idea of force or control or willfulness, I think there's a huge amount of just life as humans where we want to control life. We want to force it. And death just says, no. At some point, it doesn't matter how hard you work or try or run. I will come for you slowly, and I will always get to you. And that feels like, death is us fighting against nature. I think it's a good fit. This might be my favorite Temperance card ever. It's so lovely, people. Oh, just look at it. Oh, it's so nice. I'm not going to go off on another one. We have the Androgyny or Rebus. Yes. For Androgyny or the Androgyny, we have creative transcendence, multiplicity, the artist, ever-changing, non-binary, fluid state. This idea of fluidity back and forth between the sun and the moon. This is like so alchemical. This is like the perfect alchemical picture of this card. The sun is the masculine, the moon is the feminine. The sun is the conscious, the moon is the unconscious. This cosmic flow in between them, like cracking open the spiritual realm and just like raining truth down. This is like almost an alchemical mandala of what this idea represents. It is like so, it just is right there. Everything's just right there. Yes, I'm loving all these little visual clues. Next up, we have the devil and alchemical wedding, and we can see these snakes tying themselves together, and then these snakes tying themselves together. And oh, look at that. It's a red and a green snake, and a red and a green snake. That's pretty darn cool. Oh, and there's even circles there. Oh, this is great. This is great. For the alchemical wedding, we have ritual, celebration, uniting, revel in miracle, uniting of opposites. Now, some of that I don't usually ascribe to the devil, but I think the reveling, celebration, whatever, that part, the like just letting yourself go, look at these dudes dancing. Like, it's a party up in here. And the alchemical wedding is just like crazy smashing. There's like this disco ball of like cosmic forces bumping. And that could feel very devil to me. Just like in the moment, human, experiencing. It's primal in some ways. Up next, another one of my favorite Wild Unknown Alchemy cards, the Drowned King, pairing up with the Tower. Now, the Drowned King, we have ego collapse, losing face, humility, brought to your knees, involuntary action. Like, this card just like checks you and brings you down, just like the Tower checks you and brings you down. I think it's so cool. And it's another one that reminds me a little bit of the Azure Vault, the Blue Temple. It's just this like blue space. I think it's so beautiful. And honestly, I think enough said. Tower, face check. Oh, the star. Look at this star. This deck, I tell you, there's something about the Masonic Tarot. It is full of magic. It is like, okay, I'm just going to grab the rest of the deck for a second. We're breaking all the rules. There is something about the Minor Arcana that feels very like mysterious and esoteric in some ways. There's all this geometry. Things feel very like placed and purposeful. And there's a purposefulness to the Major Arcana too. There's a structure, definitely an intention, but there's also this misty quality to it. Like, it almost looks like this was spray painted or used an airbrush or something. I honestly can't tell what the technique is, and I love that. Like, that just lends this whole dreamy air of mystery to this deck that is just intoxicating. And every time I think about, like, do I really want to keep the Masonic or whatever, I always look at it and I'm like, I could never get rid of this thing. It is a absolute masterpiece of esotericism, imagery. The size is so cool. It is just a home run. And, well, there we go. We went off on another card. And for the star, I picked Benevolent Guide. For Benevolent Guide, we have Inner Voice, Guide, Ally, Whispering, Constant, Non-Conditional. I think the star is like this constant fixed point, this guide leading you along the way. Sometimes you can't see your benevolent guide, like you're not paying attention to it, or the sun's out or something, but it's literally always there, constantly burning in the night. For the moon, this lovely moon, we have the Void. Now, I'm just going to say it. I'm getting a little tired of Oracle decks including a blank card called the Void, the Nothing, emptiness. It feels a little lazy at this point. I think it is an awesome concept. It's really cool in readings. And for that, I love it. But I'm like, we get it, people. Let's come up with a more creative thing for Void. That's my spiel. For this Void, we have liminal, darkness, destiny, depths of nothing, behind the curtains of the material. That feels very moon to me. It also feels very High Priestess to me. But this, non-material flow feels very water, and we have tons of water in the moon. Even this person is kind of emanating out of this nothingness. They're very non-material, very ephemeral. I think that fits nicely with our Void. We're nearly there. Holy cats! We have the sun. We have Lux. Oh, it's a beautiful sun. It's a beautiful deck. I can't keep going off. It's such a beautiful deck. I'm going to have to break down the majors at some point. For the sun, we have the Golden Rose, the Secret, the Altar, the Gem. This card is talking about how you're never going to get all the mysteries of alchemy, which I find infuriating, but fine. You have to just embrace the secrecy of it. You have to embrace the mystery. And that is kind of like the answer to the alchemical process. And I think there's something about that in the sun too. The sun I read very much as like the self and illumination, and this idea that, a spotlight can make everything clear, but a spotlight highlights one thing. And as a self, you can only experience yourself in this huge, endless universe. So there's some mystery in there. And even me experiencing myself, I don't know myself perfectly. There's always going to be things that I do that I don't understand. There's going to be this kind of beautiful secrecy to it. But that in and of itself, that mystery is kind of existing. It's kind of life. It's sort of what consciousness is. So even though it's not my typical read, I think it, again, adds a nice little layer and flavor to the sun. Judgment. Boom. With the Great Serpent. And another lovely visual cue of the rainbow coming down the ladder with the rainbow of this Great Serpent, this Ouroboros. Folks, we've reached one of the most beautiful cards in this deck, in my opinion. On this stark black background, we have this wild skeletal serpent, and on the interior, we can see everything that it consumes being converted to gems. And the gems expand and contract with the body, but everything makes it through, and nothing escapes because it's eating its own tail. It's gorgeous. Some of our keywords are the Tail Eater, the Guardian, Quantum Realm, Unified Polarities, turn anything into gemstones. You can tell I had the keywords on the mind while I was talking about that. But Judgment here is very like final, burning. It's a card of fire. It rips across the land and, destroys the crops. It judges fairly and harshly and, uniformly. It is the Great Serpent. It is the thing that will take anything and just decimate it down, but make it beautiful and refine it in the process. And last but not least, the World and the Great Work. I love a very down-to-earth world card. It makes me so happy, and this deck does not disappoint. And here, the Great Work. This card's fine. Looks pretty. I love all the dots, and the flowers are nice. That was my expert art critique of this card. Here we have attention, devotion, vocation. Life is an accumulation of moments and something that can't be declared but just is. The phrase life is an accumulation of moments is like how I view the World card almost perfectly. Like the world I see literally as just like the place we live in. I think of it so nuts and bolts down to earth, and this feels like it's the great work. It's what we're all doing. It's our life. And that could be a great life. It could be a simple life. It could be happy or sad or anything in between. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That is your great work, and that is the world. And I think that's really beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious, everybody. We made it through. We made it through all the materials. We made it through all the mysteries. And personally, I had a blast. I thought this was such a fun exercise. If you've never done something like this, I really, really recommend it. It is so cool. You don't have to be fancy about it. You don't have to make a video about it, but you sure can if you want to. This deck and the Wild Unknown archetypes both lend themselves really, really well to pairing up with a tarot deck. This one is much easier because there's way less cards to worry about. You're really only doing the Major Arcana, where the archetypes, you're doing the whole dang deck. So if you feel like deep diving, that's a fun one. I have a whole 6-part video series if you want to see me do that. If you want to just dive in yourself, I cannot recommend it enough. If you stuck it out this long, thank you so much. I would love to hear what some of your favorites or least favorites or thoughts or whatever. Just want to chat with y'all because chatting's fun and it's beautiful. This little tarot community we have on YouTube. I think it's so cool where I can sit here and you can stare at my hands as I chat about oracle decks and tarot cards all day, and we can have a blast together doing it. It's been really fun, everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye!